Welcome back to the Wizard Shop. It's time for a small car. Let's take a look at this 2002 Porsche Boxster. Let's get started. Just kidding. No, obviously it's not a 2002 Porsche Boxster. Just kind of get you guys, some of you guys get a little bit too emotional about some of this stuff, so sometimes it's fun to play a little joke. This is a Beck Spyder. And no, it is not Hoovie's Garage Tyler's Beck Spyder. This has nothing to do with him. It's not even the same engine, not even the same year, but it is roughly the same car. It looks like a Porsche 550 Spyder. It is not an authentic Porsche. It is a Beck replica of a Spyder. We've got quite a little list of things to go through. This guy also owns the M998 Humvee that you guys just saw in a video. We got that one done, and now he dropped this one off to have some things taken care of. He's had it for a long time. It's set for a number of years, but the key thing for me that I was willing to work on it, because normally I don't work on cars that's been sitting for a long time, but the fact that he drove it here tells me, okay, I probably don't need to rebuild your engine or pull the transmission or do a bunch of crazy work. The fact that it run and it drove itself here, okay, I'll take it in. It has roughly 38,000 miles on it, but that's also one of the issues that are listed is that it just recently stopped counting on the odometer, so we need to take that little speedometer gauge out and see what's going on, see what happened with it. Maybe it's internally we could fix it, or maybe it needs a whole new speedometer. We'll have to see. It is quite impressive for a replica, or some people call them a kit car. I don't know that you'd call it a kit car, but to have that many miles on it, that means this guy's been using this thing, not just parking it. Like most people that have these, they put 200 miles a year on them, and they just sit and sit and sit and sit. But this one obviously has been used quite a lot. Let's take a look around this cute little car. So here is the front of this Beck Spyder. It has a really cool look. It looks very fun, doesn't it, Mrs. Wizard?
This looks adorable. It'd be a blast to drive.
It is very fun to drive. Actually, Danielson is working on it, and he has asked me many times, he's like, can I please have this car? Like, no, you can't have it. It's not mine to give away. They're very low to the ground. They have really cool aspect ratio as far as the wheels, the way it looks. It's really, really cool. They're big wheels compared to the body. Not really big wheels in general, but they look big on this car. And it's only a few steps to get to the back. It's a really short car. Here is the back, the iconic Porsche rear end. It even says Porsche. It has the Porsche emblem just to give it that look of the old 550 Spyder. It's a beautiful silver color. There's no scratches. Most of this body is like a fiberglass, and it's not caved in or crunched or broken, or it's in really good shape. Let's go ahead and show you guys where we put gas. Right there, right in the middle of the front frunk, or the trunk, or whatever you want to call that. That's where you fill up. You can see that it can have wipers. Hoovie's has working wipers, and this one probably can too, but the arms are just removed and little caps put on them. It's really not necessary to have wipers. Who's going to drive this in the rain, really? Let's go ahead and open the frunk. And there we have a battery, some air intake ducts, and our fuel cell, a fuel tank. You can see that when you fill up, it's just basically a hole in the front trunk lid here. And there you can see the reservoir for the brake master cylinder, and it shows it was flushed 5 of 2013, and the fluid is kind of dark. The customer said, just go ahead and flush it again. Let's get all clean fluid in there. So we will definitely be taking care of that. These cars are very simple to work on, very simple to maintain. Actually kind of fun to work on, and also fun to drive, obviously. If the fuel tank were to have issues, you just unbolt it here and literally just pick it up like a suitcase. Replace it with a new one. You can get all the parts for this vehicle from Beck. I've had to get a few for Tyler's 550 Spyder replica already. They have everything in stock. So if anything fails, you just call them and get another one.
Well, ladies and gents, we haven't done an interior review in a few episodes, but here we go. And it's so small I can't even really get in the car to show much of it. But here we can see it has some really cool red leather seats and a nice red leather headrest, at least for the driver. Passenger, sorry, you might get whiplash. Be prepared. As we move around, we can see some more Porsche accents on the steering wheel. And we can see the gauge cluster there is a nice retro design. See that the speedometer is in kilometers per hour, so you better know where you're supposed to be on here as well. But that is, as you look, it does say 38,000 miles. So that's a lot of miles on this little guy. And it doesn't show the age hardly at all. Everything is nice. It's clean. Has a very nice, very simple shifter in the center there. And it does have a nice bar where the glove box might have been on other cars, but there we have a bar either to help you not fly around as the passenger or to help you maybe crawl out of this short little beast. So nothing really crazy in here. Some carpet on some of the siding and everything. Very simple door. Well, there's no really door cards there. It's just metal and a little latch over there to pull up on to open that door. But that's it. And as we move down, you'll see way down there is the pull lever to open the rear trunk or our engine bay. Wizard, give it a yank.
So here is further proof that this is not Tyler Hoover's Beck Spyder from Hoovie's Garage, because his has a Subaru 2.5 four-cylinder in it. This is an older Beck from many years before Tyler's was purchased, and this is back when they were using the air-cooled Volkswagen Beetle engine. I'm not sure the exact specs, if it's a 1600 or a 1776 or a 2000, or if they've done anything like that. I don't know that. But you can see it has a nice little fan here, a little shroud. It's also the alternator is usually located in that area. It pulls air and directs it over the cylinder heads. And it is a very easy vehicle to work on. If you need to put a new starter on, 2 bolts, there it is. Here's our clutch slave cylinder, easy to get to. If you need to do service on this, it's easy to do the service on the transmission, just drain it and fill it right there. We do have an oil cooler over here with an electric fan. Kind of like a little radiator, but being that these are not liquid cooled, we just have an oil cooler. It does have valve covers that say Porsche, and it could be that I'm mistaken, and this could be a Porsche air-cooled engine. I'm going to have to disassemble it and get more information as we go along. We're going to pull the shroud off when we work on it. You can see a remote oil filter down there that also cleans the oil. We have dual carburetors. Those look like Webers. They are. There's the Weber symbol there. Maybe IDFs or something. 2 two-barrel carburetors, 1 on each side. You can see the exhaust manifolds come into 2-into-1 that go into the muffler, and then each muffler again combines 2-into-1 out the back to a single exhaust. And it sounds really good. It's a good sounding engine. Danielson says it runs very well as well. So let me grab the list and we can start going over those things, and then we can get this thing on the lift. And it's not going to take very much power to lift this thing. It doesn't hardly weigh anything. So here I have the list. The first thing on the list is an inspection, which we will definitely do. We'll go through front to back, which is only a few steps front to back. And check the brakes, check the brake hoses, check everything out, the tires, make sure everything is safe and good to go. There is an oil leak back here. The customer drove it up. It hadn't had that problem before. We opened this back hood and he was like, oh my, there's something splattering back here. So we need to discover what that is, if it's a valve cover or what's going on there. So here you can see the oil I just talked about. It's spattered all over the frame and the transmission. We need to get down to the bottom of that. The oil filler neck, I think it's this way from the factory. and the customer just doesn't like it. His words were that it's kind of jankety, and he really doesn't like that. See if we could rework that. We'll definitely look to see what we can do with that. Being that this is a custom car, as far as the way they designed the engine to work with this car, it doesn't hurt to customize further and make the oil filler neck a much better design. The odometer on the speedometer, like I just mentioned, does not work. It just recently quit on him. We'll need to discover what's going on with that. If we have to replace the speedometer with a new one, it'll be at 0 miles, and there will be an odometer statement that's signed with the customer when he gets an inspection or whatever. I mean, sometimes you can order the speedometers up to match the miles that you have on there. I'll have to see what I can do. It would be forever to roll the miles to get up to 38,000 miles. I don't know if we would want to do that. So the oil temperature gauge does not work currently. That's something that we need to discover. There's an oil pressure switch, and there's also an oil temperature sensor over here on the right side of the engine. We need to discover if it's just failed or bad wires. But right now, it never registers any oil temperature. It's not working. The turn signal, the actual housing, is floppy on the steering shaft. We need to tighten that up. And also, when you turn it a certain direction, some of the lights, whether they're working or not, it's not showing up on the indicator here in the instrument cluster. It's not flashing, so we need to figure that out. It could be just a bulb. We need to check the transmission oil, make sure it's full and clean, possibly do a service on that depending on if it's very dirty or not. And the brake fluid flush I just talked about. It's very murky, dark fluid, and it hasn't been changed since 2013, so it's definitely time to get that changed. That doesn't seem very long ago, does it, Mrs. Wizard?
No, it just seems like yesterday, but dang it, it's 9 years ago.
Almost 10 years ago. To me, in my mind, it was like, oh, that was like 2 years ago. I guess it's part of getting older. Time flies by really fast. All right, well, I'll get this closed, and then we'll get this thing up on the lift and look underneath. Hopefully I can get it on the lift. It's very small. We'll see. So I had Danielson help me. We had to lift up the corners to actually get it where the arms would fit under it. The car is so low to the ground, but we got it. Everything worked very well. On Tyler's Beck Spyder, there is a radiator up here, and there's coolant lines that run up and down to go to the engine, but being that this is an air-cooled engine, there's none of that up here. But there is air intakes here for airflow. You can look through here and see that it has the torsion bar suspension up front. See if anything's loose. Everything's good there. Shocks look good. Brakes look very good. Look like brand new. Go to this side. Brakes are good. Nothing loose. No sway bars or anything like that. Everything looks good there. And it's just flat panels all the way back. There's nothing to really look at as far as right here. There's no exhaust or nothing here. When we come back to here, we can see this is where our engine is. It does have some minor seepages going on there, but nothing serious. Here's our oil pan. Just looks like it's a added capacity here, like this lower section here. Here's our remote oil filter we talked about. It runs off with a little oil pump. This valve cover gasket is not leaking. Everything looks good there. But there we can see that this one very likely is leaking. You can see where it's coming out. So it's going to need some valve cover gaskets. That's where the leak is coming from. You can see a little bit of seepage here. This looks like a breather, like a crankcase breather. So that would be normal for that to be a little bit wet. Here's our transaxle. Everything's nice and dry there. It works very well. We haven't had any issues with that. Here's our exhaust. Our brakes in the back are drum brakes. They are not disc. And I don't see any fluid coming out of the bottom or anything. There is oil everywhere that's coming from the leak we just found. Drum brakes, everything's good there. Strut is not leaking, it's in good shape. Really a very simple car. Everything that you really need to be concerned about, except for the steering and brakes, is right here. Everything is in the back. Here's our little exhaust tip that comes out the back. As you can see, it's got a few scrapes on it from going up and down a driveway or something like that. Here's our shifter. Putting it in and out of gear there.
And Wizard, it does have apparently the Beck standard door hinges.
Yep.
Again.
Yep, Tyler's Beck Spyder has the same thing. These are just standard old door hinges. Hey, it works. I mean, why do you need to spend $1,000 on a set of hinges? You can get those for $5 a piece. Tires look brand new. They still have all the little nipples on them, so they've been recently replaced. So it could be that they were replaced a while back, they just never used, but they look to be in brand new condition. Let's go ahead and get this thing on the ground. Thanks for Mrs. Wizard getting that sped up, getting it come down a little faster, because it actually took a little while. It doesn't hardly weigh anything, and it just very slowly went down. But that makes sense because it doesn't weigh very much. So we'll get a list together and see what the customer wants to do. Luckily, this is not going to be some major pull the engine apart, pull the transmission out. It's not going to be any of that. Take care of some oil leaks, rework some of the oil fill, check out the turn signals and the odometer. Just give it a good workover, some flushes, brake fluid and whatnot. He'd like to start driving this thing again, so we're very happy to get it taken care of, and then we'll get this back to the customer, and I think that there's more cars even coming after this one. So he hasn't driven in a long time. He's excited that he may get to drive it again without worries of it's leaking oil or something like that. We're in the season right now in Kansas where the weather is perfect. It's 75, 80 degrees during the day. This is the convertible weather, and I've been seeing a lot of them out. So definitely it's time to get this one fixed up and enjoy it before the cold weather in winter hits. If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on this little guy, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below, and we get a small cut, and we really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because we still have a project in the works. Thanks for watching.